Welcome to FTA TVM DBE Certification, Guidance on the DBE Program and Goal Requirement webinar. My name is Janelle Hinton, and with my colleague Ed Burst, we will highlight the DBE regulations for becoming a certified transit vehicle manufacturer. During this presentation, we are going to discuss the purpose of the DBE program, TVM eligibility, DBE Program Elements, DBE Goal methodology requirements, and the DBE Goal approval and disapproval process. The purpose of the DBE program. The Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program is one dedicated to helping small business owned and controlled by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals, including minorities and women, in participating in contracting opportunities created by DOT financial assistance programs. What is a DBE? A DBE is a for-profit small business concern that is at least 51% owned and operated by one or more individuals who are both socially and economically disadvantaged. Objectives of the DBE program. The first objective is to ensure non-discrimination on DOT-assisted contracts. Second, the DBE program is intended to create a level playing field for DBEs. Your program must make sure DBEs have the same opportunities to compete for DOT-assisted contracts. Narrowly tailored DBE program, meaning the methodology and implementation of your program should be based upon the unique circumstances in your area and for your firm. You are to ensure only firms meeting eligibility standards can participate. That means only certified DBEs should be utilized in DOT-assisted contracts. Removing barriers to the DBE participation by breaking large contracts down into smaller projects that DBEs and small businesses can bid on. You also want to help develop DBE firms to compete outside of the DBE program. For example, establishing a mentor-protege program. Lastly, the flexibility to recipients to be creative in setting up their DBE program in their own way. While certain aspects of the regulations are required, the regulation also allows for recipients to use their own unique approach to establishing their program as long as the requirement elements are met. What do we mean by TVM? Transit vehicle manufacturers, known as a TVM, is a manufacturer whose primary business purpose is to build vehicles specifically for public mass transportation. Such vehicles include, but are not limited to, buses, rail cars, trolleys, ferries, and vehicles manufactured specifically for paratransit purposes. The definition includes producers of vehicles that receive post-production alterations or retrofitting to be used for public transportation purposes. Please note, businesses that manufacture vehicles solely for personal use and for sale off the lot are not considered transit vehicle manufacturers. The federal regulatory requirement at 49 CFR Part 26.49 states, if you are an FTA recipient, you must require each transit vehicle manufacturer, as a condition of being authorized to bid or propose on FTA-assisted transit vehicle procurements, certified that it has complied with the DBE regulatory requirements. A transit vehicle manufacturer may obtain this certification by submitting his DBE Goal and Program Plan to the FTA Office of Civil Rights. If you are a transit vehicle manufacturer, you must establish and submit for FTA's approval an overall annual DBE goal, known as the Goal methodology, and a DBE program plan. TVM eligibility. Only those transit vehicle manufacturers listed on FTA's eligible TVM list or that have submitted a goal methodology to FTA that has been approved or has not been disapproved at the time of solicitation are eligible to bid. A TVM's failure to implement the DBE program in the manner prescribed by 49 CFR Part 26 may result in removal from FTA certified TVM lists and the inability to bid on future FTA-assisted vehicle procurements. Before bidding on FTA-assisted vehicle procurements, a TVM must submit a DBE goal to FTA, must submit a DBE program plan to FTA, and submit the TVM certification approval to the transit agency within its bid package. That will be a copy of the TVM concurrence letter or in-review letter you receive from FTA. To obtain certification, a TVM must submit a DBE Goal methodology and a DBE program plan. An annual program plan submittal is not required as long as it remains in compliance. However, significant changes in the program plan must be submitted for FTA approval. What we mean by significant changes, if your firm receives a new CEO or general manager or a new DBE liaison officer is assigned, you must update your program plan to reflect these changes. To maintain certification and remain eligible, a TVM must submit an annual DBE Goal methodology to FTA by August 1st of each year. Further, TVMs must submit the uniform report of DBE awards and commitments and payments on June 1st and December 1st of each fiscal year. Now I'll pass it to my colleague Ed to discuss the DBE program plan.
Thank you, Janelle. In this section, we will look at DOT's DBE program and its elements. The DBE program has 12 elements. These elements are required for each recipient and must be included in your submission. Note, each element must include a narrative in your submission, even if the narrative notes that you are not developing a particular portion of the program at this time. The 12 DBE program elements are the program plan, policy statement, DBE liaison officer, financial institutions, DBE directory, over-concentration analysis, business development programs, determining and meeting goals, required contract provisions, certification standards and procedures, record keeping and monitoring, and monitoring and enforcement mechanisms. Now that we are familiar with the 12 elements, we will go into a little more detail for each element. Element 1, Program Plan. The program plan details your implementation of your DBE program according to federal guidelines. Please note, should any significant changes occur after you have submitted a DBE program plan, such as assigning a new DBE LO or general manager, you must update your DBE program and submit to FDA for approval. Element 2, Policy Statement. The policy statement affirms your participation in the DBE program. Moreover, it identifies the objective of your DBE program, identifies your DBE LO, as well as how your company will disseminate the statement internally and externally. Last, the policy statement must be signed and dated by your current Chief Executive Officer. Element 3, DBE Liaison Officer. The DBE LO undertakes the responsibilities associated with DBE program implementation and has a direct reporting relationship with the CEO. Please note that this direct reporting relationship must be reflected in your organizational chart too. In addition, the DBE LO must have adequate staff and authority to administer the program. Element 4, Financial Institutions. For this program element, it is imperative that you conduct a thorough search for DBE financial institutions and make this information available to contractors. Whether you will be able to find any financial institutions or will be able to use any financial institutions, it will vary from case to case. In order for your DBE program to be compliant, you must demonstrate that you conducted the search and present the outcomes of that search to relevant parties. Please note that the availability of financial institutions should be reevaluated periodically. Even though no time period is required by the regulation, FDA recommends that a reevaluation is conducted every 1 to 2 years. Element 5, DBE Directory. The DBE Directory is issued by each certifying agency and may help TVMs locate ready, willing, and able certified DBEs in specific work categories. Element 6, Over-concentration analysis. For this element, you want to provide information detailing whether there is an over-concentration of DBEs in a particular work category and how you will address over-concentration. For example, if you find yourself awarding a specific product to a specific group on a consistent basis, we want to see that you are assessing and evaluating any over-concentration. Element 7, Business Development Programs. This element refers to a mentor-protege program. In addition, it can also foster small business growth and development. Should you decide to not have a business development program at the time of your submission, please do state so in a narrative and elaborate whether you plan to implement such program in the future. Element 8, Determining and Meeting Goals. In this program element, you want to calculate the percentage of federal funds that will be directed toward DBE contractors and subcontractors. Keep in mind that we want to see the work for all your calculations. Should you submit an Excel document to show your calculations, we need to be able to see the formulas associated with each calculation. Element 9, Required Contract Provisions. In order to achieve compliance for Element 9, you must ensure that all federal regulatory DBE provisions language is included in the contracts and subcontracts where federal funds are involved. Element 10, Certification Standards and Procedures. This element requires that you direct potential DBEs to a local Unified Certification Program, UCP, for certification information. Under Element 10, you must ensure that all DBEs listed on any state UCP are certified. Note, it is your responsibility to check periodically the DBEs you are working with are certified. Also, keep in mind that you are not a certifying agency, but you can direct DBEs to certifying agencies. Element 11, Record Keeping and Monitoring. As part of Element 11, you must report DBE participation and provide FTA a copy of the bidders list upon request. Note, although it is up to you to decide what information you are collecting for your bidders list, there are 5 particular elements that regulation require on a bidders list. And those are a firm's name, the firm's address, a firm's status as a DBE or non-DBE, age of the firm, and the annual gross receipt of the firm. Moreover, you must ensure that certifying DBEs are performing the work contracted to them and that they are being paid for their satisfactory performance on a timely basis as required by the regulation. Last, Element 12, Monitoring and Enforcement Mechanism. Element 12 requires that you implement appropriate mechanisms to ensure regulatory compliance by all participants in the program, i.e. the contractors and subcontractors.
The DBE Goal methodology. The DBE Goal methodology should be an outline step-by-step of how you develop your DBE goal. What is a DBE goal? A DBE goal is the percentage of FTA funds a TVM anticipates awarding to ready, willing, and able DBEs who provide supplies or services during an FTA-assisted vehicle procurement. The DBE Goal methodology has 8 minimum requirements. Requirement 1, detailed list of contracting opportunities. Requirement 2, geographic market area. Requirement 3, Step 1 base figure. Requirement 4, Step 2 adjustment. Requirement 5, race-conscious and race-neutral breakdown. Requirement 6, list of sources used to establish the goal. Requirement 7, evidence of meaningful consultation. And last, Requirement 8, proof of publication.
Aye.
Requirement 1, detailed list of contracting opportunities. You are to provide a list of all domestic supplies and/or services outsourced when manufacturing FTA-funded vehicles. That should include both contracting and subcontracting opportunities. You are to classify these opportunities by the appropriate NAICS codes. Also, include the name of the FTA recipient and vehicle procurements you anticipate bidding on. For example, if you intend to bid on a procurement with California DOT for 50 rail cars, please include those details within your goal methodology. In this image here, we've outlined some potential contracting opportunities for this particular paratransit van. In our example here, we have listed out the molded fiberglass roof, dual roof air conditioners, rear vision camera. These are different potential contracting opportunities which DBEs could perform work on this vehicle. Requirement 2, geographic market area. Your geographic market area, also known as the GMA, is the area that you award a substantial majority of your contracts. Consider the geographic location of your largest suppliers or the areas where a majority of your products are sourced. The GMA does not have to be the same geographic location as your facility. Make note, the GMA does not mean the location in which you intend to bid on vehicle procurements. Meaning, if you bid and win a contract with a transit agency in the state of Ohio, that does not mean your GMA has to be the state of Ohio as well. We're looking for the area in which you award your contracts to get your supplies and services to assist in your vehicle procurement. Clearly identify your geographic market area as an individual state, a group of states, or a specific region. Clearly explain how you determine the geographic market area within your goal methodology. Requirement 3, Step 1 base figure. Clearly identify the number of ready, willing, and able DBEs by the North American Industry Classification Systems Code, also known as the NAICS code, for your contracting opportunities. You are to search state UCP directories, your firm's own bidders list, or other reliable sources to locate DBEs. Next, you want to identify the number of ready, willing, and able, all firms, by NAICS codes for the same contracting opportunities. You can search the census data, bidders list, and other reliable sources to locate all firms. That's both DBEs and non-DBEs. Now you want to include a clear calculation that determines relative availability and the percentage of funds you anticipate awarding. A clear narrative on how you arrived at your base figure should accompany the data and math equation you provide. Please note, you must select NAICS codes that best describe your contracting opportunities without generalizing. For example, NAICS code 336320, Vehicular Lighting Equipment Manufacturing, should be used instead of 3363, Motor Vehicle Parts and Manufacturing. See the difference between the two? One is more detailed, while the other is very broad. You may also visit the link provided on the slide for the latest NAICS code manual. Here, you can find the definitions of all the NAICS codes to help you identify the NAICS code for the specific type of work you may need. When locating DBEs, you can use UCP DBE directories within your geographic market area, your firm's bidders list, and other reliable sources. When locating all firms, you can use Census Bureau data located at www.census.gov, your firm's bidders list, and other reliable sources. The important key is making sure you are using an apples-to-apples comparison and ensuring you are comparing data from similar sources. For this example, we are looking at NAICS code 336320, Vehicular Lighting. We've identified 17 ready, willing, and able DBEs from the UCP database within our geographic market area for the specific NAICS code. Next, we identify 67 ready, willing, and able all firms from the census data for the same NAICS code. We then divide the 17 DBEs by the 67 all firms to give us a base figure of 25.37%. Please note, displaying your data in a table format makes for effective reporting. If you weigh your figure against other contracting opportunities and the funds associated with those contracts, your figure may change. We will discuss the weighting approach later in the presentation. In our example here, we see the table format I just mentioned. We have our NAICS codes listed in the left column. We then have the number of DBEs of each NAICS code in the orange column, and the number of all firms for those same NAICS code in the purple column. Again, this is an effective approach for reporting your base figure calculation. Please note, if you have multiple states within your geographic market area, you should report the number of firms for each state by NAICS code. You must indicate the number of DBEs and all firms for each state and add a total column for your calculations. In the chart below, we have 6 states within our geographic market area. For each NAICS code, we've identified the DBEs and all firms for each of the states within our GMA. You may also do the weighting approach. This approach provides a more narrowly tailored model for availability. Weights used are proportions of dollars spent within each industry. Resulting percentages is more heavily influenced by our availability in industries where more dollars are spent. You are to decide which work types best represent your DOT-assisted contracts. We advise using NAICS codes would be best. You should then tally the dollars spent in each work type category as a percentage of the total contract dollars spent and assign work types to each DBE and non-DBE firm. For our example here, we are going to look at a construction project. We established 12% as our base figure from the 15 DBEs divided by the 125 all firms. In order for us to do the weighted approach, we've identified 70% of our funds was spent on asphalt, while 30% of our funds was spent on trucking. For asphalt, we have a ratio of 10 DBEs over 100 all firms available. For trucking, we have a ratio of 5 available DBEs over 25 all firms available. We took each ratio and times it by the percent of dollars spent on each respective work type. This gives us now a new weighted base figure of 13%. Going further with that example, this chart here shows us how we would report the weighted percentages and the availability of asphalt and trucking to get our weighted base figure of 13%. In this next example, we have a snippet of another chart that outlines the different NAICS codes, the work category description, the number of DBE firms, the number of all firms, the relative availability ratio for each of those NAICS codes, and the weighted percentage. Each of these elements should be included in your submission if you choose to develop a weighted base figure. A good practice is to include an Excel chart of your base figure calculations along with your submission. The chart should include the math equations used to develop your goal. Requirement 4, Step 2 Adjustment. You must examine all evidence available to determine if an adjustment to the base figure is needed. Clearly explain in a narrative the process used in determining as well as the evidence and reason for the adjustment. If the evidence does not suggest an adjustment is necessary, thoroughly explain the evidence and the reason for not adjusting your goal. Although the Step 2 adjustment is not required, the assessment must be done and clearly documented. Now there are 4 options of evidence that you may consider in your Step 2 adjustment. Option 1, past participation. A clear and concise calculation must be provided. Option 2, disparity studies. An explanation for studies' applicability is also required. Option 3, other TVM goals. Option 4, vetting. You must vet both DBEs and non-DBEs used to calculate the goal. That is, removing DBEs that were unable to perform on your contract. Option 1, past participation. In order to determine past participation median, also known as historical median, you are going to identify your DBE participation for the past 3 to 5 years. You are to arrange those participation values low to high and select the middle value. Next, you will take the average of your Step 1 base figure and the historical median. For example, let's say we have a base figure of 8%. Our past participation for the last 3 years was 5%, 10%, and 12%, giving us a historical median of 10%. We would then take the average of the 8% base figure and the 10% historical median to give us a value of an adjusted DBE goal of 9%. Let's look at another example here. Our past DBE participation for the last 3 years was 14% in 2015, 3% in 2016, and 7% in 2017. This will give us a historical median of 7%. Our initial base figure was 13%. We then take the average of those values to get a new DBE goal of 10%. Option 2, disparity studies. Disparity studies are jurisdictional surveys of minority and women-owned businesses, the availability of these businesses to perform on contracts, and the effect of past discrimination towards these groups. You should locate disparity studies within your geographic market area. You want to determine applicability to your goal by identifying similar NAICS codes or work categories discussed in the disparity study. You also want to clearly indicate if and how disparity studies impact your goal. Option 3, other TVM goals. If you use another TVM's goal during the Step 2 adjustment, you must analyze and ensure similarities within the TVM's geographic market area, TVM's work scope within their goal methodology, vehicles manufactured, also all factors considered in their Step 2 adjustment. The objective is to ensure you assess the goal of a similar firm. This means if your firm produces rail cars, you should not compare your goal to one of a bus manufacturer. If your firm has a geographic market area of Ohio, you should not assess the goal of a firm whose geographic market area is the state of New York. Option 4, vetting process. If you use the vetting process in your goal adjustment, you must make sure that all DBEs listed are indeed ready, willing, and able, and you must perform a similar vetting process for all firms as well as your DBEs.
Next, we will look at the race-conscious, race-neutral breakdown. In the race-conscious, race-neutral breakdown, we are looking for a projection of race-neutral and race-conscious participation you foresee meeting your set DBE goal. For this purpose, you must clearly list the race-neutral measures used in the fiscal year. Please consider the race-neutral suggestions listed in 49 CFR 26.51 Part B. In addition, you must clearly state the percentage of your goal achieved using race-neutral measures in the fiscal year. Keep in mind that maximum feasible portion of overall goal should be met using race-neutral measures. Moreover, you must clearly state the percentage of your goal achieved using race-conscious measures in the fiscal year. In the narrative, we need to see a clear explanation on how you determined the race-conscious percentage. In this slide, we go into more details on the differences between race-neutral and race-conscious measures and what we would ideally see from program participants. Race-neutral measures include outreach, technical assistance, procurement process modification, or other measures used to increase opportunities for all small businesses, not just DBEs. Please incorporate race-neutral measures that meet the needs of your small business community. Race-conscious measures are any measures that seek to assist DBEs only. Currently, contra goals are the only FTA-approved race-conscious measures. Should you decide to establish any other DBE-focused initiatives that you categorize as race-conscious measures, you must first seek approval from FTA. Requirement 6 addresses the listing of sources used to establish the goal. Specifically, we will look for a list of resources to locate DBEs. Please provide links where appropriate. For example, a link to a UCP DBE directory website or BIDIS list. In addition, we will look for a list of sources used to locate known DBEs. Again, provide links where appropriate. An example in this case would be a link to the U.S. Census data website. Last, please list the sources used for the Step 2 adjustment and provide links to all additional evidence. Quite often, program participants will provide links to various disparity studies used in their goal determination. For Requirement 7, we are looking for details on meaningful consultation. To fulfill the requirement of this element, you may consult with minority and women business associates, community organizations, general contractor groups, DBE laws at transit agencies, and any other groups with knowledge of availability of DBEs. Keep in mind that the purpose of meaningful consultations is to receive feedback on your DBE goal methodology and implementation, as well as to discuss contracting opportunities with DBEs and non-DBEs. These may be done through interactive exchanges, such as outreach events and scheduled meetings. Now let's cover what constitutes sufficient evidence of meaningful consultations. To fulfill Requirement 7, we will look for invitation or flyer to the event and sign-in sheets of attendees. You need not send physical copies, but scanned copies of the original are sufficient. Email notices and communications. Again, this can be scanned copies of the emails going back and forth. Document of your efforts to search for DBE attendees to invite to your outreach events. Also, summarize all comments received and explain how these comments impacted your goal. Keep in mind that it is crucial you provide evidence of correspondence sent or received during consultations. Effective practices or meaningful consultation include disseminating targeted correspondence to small business, minority, and women advocacy groups to solicit comments and feedback from DBE and small business stakeholders. Developing and maintaining relationships with national advocacy groups and small business organizations throughout the fiscal year, as well as sending a list of upcoming contracting opportunities to national small business organizations and request that these opportunities are shared with members. In Requirement 8, we will cover proof of publication. In order to fulfill this requirement, you must publish your goal on your company's web page. You must do so prior to submitting your goal to FTA. As the process is ongoing and you make the edits that result in changes to your goal, you must change the goal percentage on your website as appropriate. In addition, in order to comply with Requirement 8, you must accept public comments for at least 30 days. Once you receive comments, you must summarize all comments based on the publication and explain how these comments impacted your goal. Should you not receive comments, or the comments did not impact your goal, make sure to state this information clearly in a narrative. Although not required, you have the option of publishing your goal in various media outlets. For example, general circulation media, minority-focused media, trade publications, etc. Again, you must announce that you will accept public comments for at least 30 days. The following picture is a copy of an ideal public notice. You will notice that along with the name of the company, the goal percentage is clearly stated, as well as the fiscal year applicable to the goal. In addition, You will notice a statement that comments are accepted for 30 days, along with information as to where the public may send such comments.
DBE Goal Approval and Disapproval Process. On August 1st of each year, TVM submit the annual DBE Goal methodology to FTA using the FTA TVM submissions at dot.gov email. FTA will either approve the goal and issue a TVM concurrence letter, or identify deficiencies and issue an in-review letter. TVMs will be given 30 days to correct all noted deficiencies outlined within the in-review letter. TVMs that do not address all deficiencies within 30 days will receive an ineligible letter, making them ineligible to bid on federally funded contracts. FTA will post approved TVMs on the FTA TVM webpage. A firm may also receive an ineligible status for failure to submit semi-annual uniform reports of DBE's award and commitment payments. We recommend reviewing USDOT's issued guidance, Tips for Goal Setting in the DBE program, which can be found at the link on this slide. This guidance outlines the step-by-step summary of how to prepare your DBE goal. FTA uses the same guidance when we review your DBE goals. In that respect, it is a good practice to review this guidance prior to submitting your DBE goal to FTA. If you have any questions, feel free to submit your questions using FTA Contact Us tool found at the link on this slide. Please make sure to select Civil Rights and Accessibility as the drop-down category to ensure your question is routed directly to our office. This concludes FTA's presentation of Transit Vehicle Manufacturers DBE Certification, DBE Program and Goal Requirements. Thank you and have a great day.